welcome to the most excellent 80s movies podcast. It's the podcast where we humbug our way through the 80s movies we think we love or might have missed with these our modern eyes to see how they held up now that we're all grown up. And today we're talking about Scrooged, a movie selection from 1988, about which Letterboxd says, "The spirits will move you in odd and hysterical ways." In this modern take on Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol, Frank Cross, played by Bill Murray, is a wildly successful television executive whose cold ambition and curmudgeonly nature has driven away the love of his life, Claire Phillips, played by Karen Allen. But after firing a staff member, played by Bobcat Goldthwait, on Christmas Eve, Frank is visited by a series of ghosts who give him a chance to reevaluate his actions and right the wrongs of his past. Scrooged from 1988. I am Krissy Lenz, director of the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona. And with me, as always, is
Nathan Blackwell. I'm an independent filmmaker.
Welcome, Nathan Blackwell, to this.
Welcome, Krissy Lenz.
I guess this is our holiday episode.
Yeah, and unconsciously, I don't know when this is going to come out in relation, but it's our. We just did. Is this going to come after Lethal Weapon, or is there another one between that?
Yes, this is going to come after Lethal Weapon.
So it inadvertently becomes a Richard Donner, the director, double feature.
Oh, no, wait. It's going to be Lethal Weapon, then Dead Poets Society, then Richard Donner. Again.
I retract my comment.
It's the season, though. He's got a season.
It's the season of Richard Donner.
Yeah, he loves Christmas.
Well, it seems so.
What about Loving Christmas for you? Is this a favorite Christmas movie?
Nathan will go on record as loving Christmas. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say it's like, are you a Halloween person? Are you a Christmas person? Not that you need to pick one or the other, but I find myself to be more of a Christmas person, I suppose. I just I enjoy it when the weather gets cold finally, and it's about warmth. Like not just temperature though, but just kind of like the year is winding down and it's a little less stressful, and it kind of people tend to take like a full week off of for Christmas,
Yeah.
and no one takes Halloween off, and so it kind of becomes a time to unwind, see some family, and that's kind of nice for me. Like
I agree.
I wouldn't say that I'm super into Christmas music. It's usually a little more of a bane for me. Although I do enjoy putting on a couple of, like, I genuinely enjoy, although I bought it irreverently, a Billy Idol Christmas.
Oh, yay.
Billy Idol sings Christmas songs, and then so the staples in our house is like an Elvis Christmas and Billy Idol. So
those are the two classics. You can't get by without those two classics, Elvis and Billy Idol.
And so what about you?
Oh, I love Christmas. I am finding, though, that this year both my kids are teenagers, and so they're very hard to like shop for. So the gift giving piece of the puzzle, which has always been a source of joy for me, is somewhat missing from this year's festivities, because both the children are just like, I don't need anything. I don't really want anything.
Yeah,
give me money.
Yeah. It's tough also for adults if you're shopping for a budget range of like $10-$20. It's like, well, that's something that, like, if I wanted that, then I could have just easily bought it,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you need it, you buy it for yourself. So I really enjoy gift giving, but it's tricky this year.
Yeah.
I'm finding.
Yeah. One year, this was a long time ago. I was in college, but I did all of my. I had it was sort of I suppose you'd say it was a bit of a stunt, but I did all my all my Christmas shopping for everyone that I knew at Karate Mart. And
What's
so,
Karate Mart?
it's a resource, shall we say, for purchasing karate gear or ninja gear or martial arts equipment. Um,
Oh, I see.
so yeah, there were
So
a lot of
everyone got martial
they
arts equipment.
yeah, it was basically like a Batman throwing star or caltrops which you use to impede people's footsteps and
Mhm.
like retractable knives and things like that. So,
Well, Merry Christmas. Nothing says
Merry
Christmas like
Christmas.
karate supplies.
They did have a couple of like pseudo Buddhist, meditation kind of things that I probably ended up getting, like, some sort of decorative thing for my mom. But
Mhm.
yeah, I haven't been back to Credit Mart in some time. I hope they're
No,
still
your
around.
mom didn't get caltrops?
Honestly, it's 50-50. My memory isn't what it was. I very well could have gotten her caltrops, yes.
Yeah. So, in terms of Christmas time and Christmas movies, is Scrooged one of your go-tos?
Well, you know what? I can't say that I mean, I feel like it was in the rotation when we were younger.
Okay.
And that's the thing. It's like I haven't returned to it in a long time. Like I feel like the stuff that I watch nowadays, like I don't even watch the whole thing. It's like, okay, so I've now seen 15 minutes of A Christmas Story. Okay, I'm good. You know,
Right.
like
Right.
I've
You can just have it
participated.
on in the background.
Yeah, usually nowadays it's in the pursuit of some new fun, goofy Christmas experience. It's like, oh, let's watch. Oh, they made a sequel to the Kurt Russell Santa Claus movie. Let's watch that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then one of them is like that I'll probably be rewatching is my deep cut recommendation. So I'll bring that up
Okay.
later. But yeah, I wouldn't. I feel like we're not really into the we've got to see this every year other than maybe being like, okay, so is this December Lord of the Rings rewatch or Harry Potter rewatch.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just watched Harry Potter last night with Rocket.
There you go. So I for me it's like a 3-year cycle. It's like it's either Lord of the Rings, then Harry Potter, then neither. It's like, well, we just watched them last time, and then that year off, then it's like, well, now I want to rewatch such and such. So
Yeah.
yeah. How about for you?
Well, I have never seen Scrooged before.
What?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I've seen
Uh-huh.
all the highlights, all the parts that
Yeah.
you see on the TV year after
The
year, but
clips.
I've never seen the movie. And
Hmm.
I have to say, I didn't really enjoy it.
You know what? I am bummed that my opinion of the movie dropped from because I it's like, oh, Scrooge, that's a fun one. That's kind of a Beetlejuicean take on Christmas.
Mhm,
It's like
mhm.
over the top comedy. Bill Murray, who doesn't love Bill Murray? And so my memory of it is maybe even like it's probably been 10 years since I've seen Scrooged. Has kind of fallen down a tier.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
me, it never got above the beginning. Like it started strong
Mm, yes.
and then it just never got back up again.
Yeah.
And I do love Bill Murray. It's not for a lack of love for Bill Murray, and I could see really liking it because it's a Bill Murray vehicle.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
but like anyone, especially anyone who's got a strong personality or does a lot of improv, like there's a good Bill Murray and a bad Bill Murray. It's
mm,
like
mhm.
there's like a you know, it's sometimes you get too much of it and you get a little sick to your stomach or it just doesn't work out right. Like in my opinion on this one, just rewatching it, like it felt like there was just a lot of unhinged improv that just occasionally bumped us off the track, you know?
Right.
Like I wasn't watching the character, I was watching Bill Murray do something irreverent and kind of toss the script away in this moment, and it felt sometimes too meta, you know? Like I was
I
aware of the
agree.
actor.
Yeah, I was very aware of the actor, and I was very aware of the it going from Bill Murray being like, I need to be silly, I'm Bill Murray, I'm this lovable
Mhm.
scamp who's a lovable asshole, to oh wait, right, I'm supposed to be an actual asshole.
Yeah.
um
I'm on record as being a big fan of the lovable asshole, you know, as a character.
as am I, but I think they were trying so hard to make him irredeemable.
Mhm.
And Bill Murray didn't quite get there for me. I mean, even in the moments where he's like watching through the telescope as he's fired Bobcat Goldthwait,
Mhm.
and he seems to
Well
be like reveling in it. It's like,
well, it's so broad. That's the thing. It's so broad his quote evilness, you know? It's it's also tough in any kind of movie. It's boring, but little plot points of development of where the character is, especially in a redemption story. Like you have to, if you're telling a redemption story, you have to be able to believe in the transformation, in the turn. You know, that's like the
mhm,
most important part. Is like when his, you know, his belief in you know, in himself is challenged. It has to feel real,
right,
and when it's the final turn, that has to work, that has to be believable as well. And it's tough when you have something that is occasionally so broad, and but also with like improv, you sometimes lose those moments in there of the boring moments of character and consistency and transformation, you know, those little bits where the
mhm,
character
mhm,
kind of has his paradigm cracked a bit, not shattered, but just the little cracks, you know.
yeah. And there is, as you said, a Tim Burton-y quality to this, a Beetlejuicean quality to this that becomes really um darkly slapstick,
Hmm.
but it never quite finds the Beetlejuicean joy
Hmm. Hmm.
in my mind.
Yeah, and honestly, like it's not just Bill Murray. Like the other characters feel like they're in a rushed situation as well. You know,
Yeah, I agree.
like they're like Alfred Woodard and Bobcat Goldthwait. They feel like they've been kind of hurried along. You know, like it's almost like they only got two or three takes. You know,
Right, right.
to get it down.
And I did
And
read that Bill Murray did not get along with Richard Donner.
yeah.
That they had a big disagreement about how much improvising should be done and how much shouting should be done.
Hmm. And and for the record, Richard Donner was pro shouting.
Yes, he was pro shouting, and I think a lot of the shouting ended up on the screen.
Yeah, because there's a lot of shouting.
Yep.
Yeah, and also like so so when I say a lot of the movie feels rushed and the improv feels sometimes inconsistent, I'm not totally blaming Bill Murray because I
No,
feel like
no.
that's kind of happening even in the other stuff, you know? Like I feel like in the beginning of the movie, like the comedy scenes are shot almost like dramatic scenes. Like it's
Mhm.
very tight close-ups. And you just, you know, it's like comedy is tricky. Like I'm not one of these believers that comedy has to be super bright. It has to be realistic. It has to be, you know, like what real life is.
Right.
But you have to see people's faces and really tight, like long lens close-ups. It's tough on comedy because you need to see both people. You need to see the people's eyes, and so if one is in focus and one is out of focus, as like sometimes you might do in a drama, you know, very that shallow focus, it's tough for us. And if it's really tight, like we don't even see their shoulders, that's tough too, because their body language is super important as well, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
Like, eh, yeah. So for me, Richard Donner missed a few steps by the way he shot some of the scenes at the beginning, or even some of the scenes throughout, where we're just not seeing enough of the performers to kind of let the comedy happen. It's a
Right.
weird thing. It's a weird thing.
So the beginning is we start in a little Christmas town and it's like a little Christmas village, but there's guns and bombs and all of a sudden it's Lee Majors.
Mm-hmm.
It's a movie within the movie, and then we see a bunch of commercials for shows on this IBC network, including one called Father Loves Beaver.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about broad.
Yeah.
It's like a Leave It to Beaver, and they're like, "Where's Dad? Oh, he's probably out chasing beaver. Father loves beaver." Like what? That's crazy.
Uh-huh.
Um, so he's like, "Show me the Scrooge promo." It's Bill Murray, and everyone, all the other executives are sort of afraid of him. They show him the Scrooge promo, and he's like, "This is not good enough. People have to be so afraid to miss it that they're going to lose their minds if they miss it." And he shows one that's like nuclear war and disaster and uh
Mm-hmm.
don't miss Scrooged.
Mm-hmm.
Bobcat Goldthwait kind of stands up to him and says, "You can't show that. It'll scare people, and we don't want to scare people. It's Christmas." And so he gets fired.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Murray tears down a child's drawing from his Alfred Woodard's office.
Yeah, it feels like, so, not just this execution, but we kind of have to talk about other like a Christmas Carol. I feel like is in the top three of movies that we keep remaking. It might
Yep.
even be the number one. And you have to kind of judge any of these movies. It's like, okay, well, what are they going to be doing original on their take of the three spirits? How are they going to handle the transformation? You know, and then how do they handle their version of Scrooge? And that's one of those things, as we're going along in the story, we should say, like, well, how did they deal with this ghost, this spirit? Did they do it interesting? Did they do it original?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in terms of, like, and I kind of feel like Alfred Woodard and Bobcat Goldthwait are like Bob Cratchit split in
Right.
half.
Because Alfred Woodard never really seems to be his enemy. She seems to be his somewhat reluctant accomplice.
Right, and she exists to be the mom of the Tiny Tim character.
Right. Right. Exactly. And Bobcat Goldthwait gets fired. His wife leaves him. He gets kicked out of his house, and all he's trying to do is get a drink. And every time he tries to get a drink, he gets splashed with water or like nearly run over by a car. He just hits the bottom of the barrel so
Hmm.
quickly.
And then, of course, his only recourse is murder suicide.
Of
One
course.
assumes.
So we learn that Grace's son doesn't speak. Grace is Alfred Woodard, who is Scrooge's or Frank Cross's assistant.
Hmm.
Her youngest son doesn't speak, and we don't know why, and she doesn't know why. So we meet him, and we get all this meanness, and then all of a sudden his door is pounding and explodes. It's a dead guy. It's his old boss who's trying to say, "You got to wake up. You're going to be visited by three ghosts. The first one's going to come to you tomorrow at noon." And he holds him out a window and drops him down the window and dials the phone to call Claire, who he hasn't spoken to in 15 years.
Right. And Claire is when so Claire was in my mind, like a quick breath of fresh air, because
Mhm.
she's played by Karen Allen, who is Marion in Raiders Lost Ark, and
Yes.
she immediately, like, brings, a charm and a gravity to the film that I felt like when I was watching the scenes with her and Bill Murray, um, like you felt bad about how she was kind of getting run over by improv.
Yes, for sure. Because she comes down to see him on the set. The next day he goes to the set, and the censor is like, "These dancers' nipples are showing. You got to cover up the nipples." And he's like, "Why? We want to see the nipples. It's Christmas." She shows up, and she's calling him lumpy, and she's being very sweet to him, and he's being funny back to her. But then she has to leave.
Yeah. And
Because
it's tough because she is the like real character in the movie.
Mhm,
The one who's
mhm.
not playing it broad or comedy. She's the heart character. And in the story, it's a good invention, because it gives him a reason or a person to kind of change or transform for, you know, since we're not doing an old man Scrooge, you
Yeah,
know. I think, like Scrooge had experiences of like love that fell through his fingers, but
yeah.
now he's an old man. Of course, doesn't deserve romantic love anymore.
Well, and
Um,
she seems so willing to, like, be with him and forgive
yeah,
him and,
exactly. As
you
he's
know,
clearly being a super broad, cartoony, evil
he
person.
wants to, like, staple antlers to a mouse's head.
Yeah, and so that's where the broadness really works against it, where she's a romantic love interest who seems genuine, and she volunteers and gives to the poor, and and we like her, but then he's doing things that are obviously like he's like firing off red flags left and right, you
Mhm.
know and it's like, okay, so I guess I'm just okay. I'm not believing any of the things I see, but the movie is saying just go with it. You
Yeah,
know, just
exactly, and I feel like this movie that's the thing that really didn't, like, suck me into the movie is because I felt like the movie was
mhm.
saying, "You just go with it. You're gonna love it."
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like feel like there's a similarity between Scrooged and Spielberg's 1941, to where it's like these really accomplished directors who are kind of getting a little out of their wheelhouse and doing comedy, and it being so broad and big, and not really fine tuning where that comedy needs to land and dance, like
Mhm.
their idea for even funnier is even louder.
Yeah, "It's more shouting," says Richard Donner.
Yeah. And it's like 1941 is that to the several degrees even higher, to where it's so bombastic and so broad and so loud that you just don't have any time to to absorb anything, you know and I feel like
Mhm.
this does a better job. Like Scrooge is a better movie than 1941, but they still kind of suffer from um that kind of approach to comedy, is that it's like, whereas like, let's say, like a director like Harold Ramis or Ivan Reitman, they know how to it's like, I think Scrooged is like the first movie that Bill Murray did since Ghostbusters. Like, he took a
Mhm.
couple of years off and then came back for this. Like, Ghostbusters is able to rein in Bill Murray, you
Mhm.
know.
Well, maybe
The
because it's an ensemble, and he's
Yeah, but
flanked by other comedic presences.
right. But even just the story of Ghostbusters is able to rein in Bill Murray. And that's the
Mhm.
way, and Scrooged should be able to rein in this. It's more just like, okay, so yes, you've got an actor who's improving, but it still has to slot into the story you're trying to tell, and not lose those little moments of humanity or storytelling in it.
Mhm. Mhm. So we meet the ghost of Christmas past. He's a crazy cab driver.
Mm-hmm.
He takes him to his old house where he gets 5 pounds of veal for Christmas, or 5 pounds of veal. Sorry, 5 pounds of veal for Christmas. And he just watches TV. Like as a kid, he just watched TV, and the mom is there, and the mom leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we see an
Yeah.
old office Christmas party where Karen Allen is there, he finds Karen Allen. He was working. Okay, we see him at an old Christmas party, and he's working, 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 and not taking time out to enjoy the holiday. He bumps into Karen Allen on the street. Literally, they bump into each other, and that's where they meet cute. 1 year later, he's giving her a set of Ginsu knives as a gift. And then several years after that, things are falling apart as he's in a dog suit and he needs to go to dinner with the boss. But
Mm-hmm.
she's like, well, we have plans to go have dinner with our friends. And Bill Murray says, you're not prioritizing me. And she's like, maybe we should take a break.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what did you think of the cab driver as the ghost of Christmas past?
I thought he was cute.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun. Again, I said, like any of these Christmas stories, they're either doing the literal one or they're doing a reinvention.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to kind of invent for this something, an original take on each of them, and I felt like they did a good job. You
Yeah,
know,
I like the cab driver. I thought he was fun.
yeah, and then
And it
later the
made sense that the cab would take them back in time.
yeah, and so that was interesting. Um, it's like I didn't like the little kid part. Like the 4 pounds of veal was fun, but so what was the ghost shaming the kid for just only watching TV and not living life? Like he was a little kid, like he didn't have a lot of agency.
Right.
But what I did respond to was the scenes with Bill Murray and Karen Allen. Like it
Mm-hmm.
felt like suddenly they were playing human people, and
Yeah.
it still got to be fun. You know, I'm not Mr. Boohoo drama, character only, like I still want to be fun, but they felt like real people. Like
I agree.
no matter what kind of comedy you're doing, like the Three Amigos, they feel like real people because they're calibrated to not go too far that it becomes meta and we're seeing just like Martin Short do a bit, or something like that. It still feels like the character has reason to be that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I felt like this section worked a lot, and because we're also trying to deconstruct how he got to be that way, you know. um
Right, right. And because they're cute together.
yeah, yeah.
And because we feel the sadness for Karen Allen when she's like, maybe we need to take a break.
Hmm. Yeah, but again, it even that moment, it felt kind of forced to where they were in different movies.
Yeah, I agree. So after this, he goes to visit her at her work where she takes care of homeless people. And for a minute, he has some playful fun with some of the homeless people who are there. And then he
Hmm.
immediately reverts to his evil self, trying to fire her volunteers and tell her that they're incompetent because they can't let her leave.
Hmm.
And it's just his evil side comes out. And it's like they go from having such a nice moment and they're kissing, and he's like, let's go spend time together, to immediately he's evil and he's like, you got to cut these people loose. They're
Yeah.
dragging you down. That wasn't a very believable turn for me.
No, no.
So he goes back to the set, and the sleazy guy from LA is taken over, and then finally Carol Kane comes in as the ghost of Christmas Present.
Hmm. Yeah,
And her whole
and
shtick
she's
is that
fun.
she's beating him up.
Yeah, she's basically a sadomasochist, which is fun.
Yeah, and I love Carol Kane
Mm-hmm.
in
Because normally
whatever.
for like the ghost of Christmas present, you've got like the big, like the feast and famine kind of thing.
Mhm.
You've got like the big gregarious man.
Right.
And I feel like in um uh Christmas story, Christmas Carol type stories, like the Christmas present is the one that you've got the most flexibility. Like
Mhm.
I feel like the um Christmas, like everyone on the Christmas future has to go with like the Grim Reaper. You know, that's the
Yeah.
one that's kind of locked in the most. But usually, like the Christmas present, you get a little more flexibility in terms of doing something a little different.
So we get Carol Kane, who's an abusive fairy,
Yes.
which goes very nicely with her cutesy, sort of high, very specific Carol Kane voice.
Hmm.
And she
Yeah,
just beats the shit out of him.
very much with her and the cabbie, they're leaning into the performer. They're not
Right.
having the performer do a wild take. They've hired the specific person to kind of do their thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we see Alfre Woodard's Christmas. We learn that the kid hasn't talked since the dad died, but they're having fun. They don't have much, but they have each other, so they're having fun. They're blowing Zerberts on each other's bellies. We see the brother's Christmas, the brother who is really Bill Murray's brother.
Hmm.
Bill Murray's dad was also played by one of Bill Murray's brothers.
Yeah.
They're having a fun house party. They're playing games. Bill Murray is frustrated that they keep getting the wrong answers to Trivial Pursuit questions. There's a Trump Tower joke that happens. He ends up under the street and he sees one of the guys from the homeless shelter who he had been sort of funning with earlier, dead and frozen.
Yeah.
And this is a real moment of realization for him.
Yeah. But yeah, it's his transformation. You get it in moments and then he reverts to evil, kind of not for like these pivot points to where he goes evil again. It doesn't feel like it's actually motivated. It just feels like now here's where the joke should be.
Yeah, exactly. So he goes back to the set. The show is starting. He's in his office drinking. The show is happening. The big skeleton arm of the Grim Reaper of the Ghost of Christmas Future tries to get him, but misses because Bobcat Goldthwait comes in with a gun.
Yeah. So he comes in with a double barrel shotgun, ready to kill him.
Ready to kill, kill, kill. Um, he gets cornered, but he gets away, and then suddenly the ghost is there, and he gets an interlude away from Bobcat Goldthwait to go with the ghost.
Hmm.
He sees the future of Grace's son being in an institution. Claire is a rich bitch with a very pale face who's like, scrape him off, a friend told me. Scrape him off is what I did, and now I'm a rich bitch. He's dead. His body is being cremated in what is like a really, really, really disturbing scene
Yeah.
where we're like in the coffin with him and his feet are burning. That was
Yeah.
just like, that had no place being in a comedy movie. It was so disturbing.
Yeah. This this sequence didn't quite work for me
Hmm.
because all of the future things are so
Absurd.
broad. Yeah, they're so absurd. Like they're played absurdly. Like it was a choice, you
Like
know.
I don't believe that they would happen.
Yes. And so for that to be the turn of his transformation just didn't work for me.
Me
Um
either.
Now having said that, so having them shoot a live Christmas Christmas Carol production was a lot of fun because you got to see the sets and the performers and it was visually interesting, you know. So you've got the turn, the transformation, but then you've got to do the what day is it? Oh, I haven't missed it. The Merry Christmas, like the
Yeah.
Scrooge transformed sequence. Like I felt like it was very protracted, but I felt like this sequence did work for me of him gathering people together and getting the ball rolling. It's like, oh my gosh, he's on live TV. He's lost his mind. And slowly getting everyone, like, I felt this was the Bill Murray that I was hoping to see throughout the movie, to where, yes, he's charismatic. Yes, he's chaotic, but this seemed scripted, you know?
You mean the part where he comes back and Bobcat Goldthwait he makes an ally of him, giving him his job back, even
Yeah,
though
where
there's
he's
no way
bringing
he's going to
in.
get his job back.
Yeah,
He's in there
exactly.
with a
Yeah.
gun,
Yeah.
but he makes an ally of him
Yeah, just the whole sequence where he's in front of the camera, everyone
when
is
he gets in
watching
front of the
him.
camera. Yeah.
Yeah,
He gets in front of the camera and he's like, "Hey, it's Christmas, everyone. Let's talk about Christmas."
yeah, and I felt like that this sequence worked for me, um, much more than some of the other sequences where we're trying to balance the comedy and the drama.
Yeah. He calls out to Claire, and Claire comes down to the set, of course. He's like, miracles can happen if you have to get greedy for the good feelings. You have to get greedy for the good feelings, which I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And the little kid and Alfred Woodard shut up, and the little kid's like, God bless us, everyone. Claire shows up and they kiss. Everyone starts singing Put a Little Love in Your Heart. And that's Scrooged.
Oof. Yeah. It yeah, it's yeah, I'm a little.
It just kind of happened. It just kind of went along. I don't think I laughed out loud even once.
Uh-huh. I
I
think
don't
I
even
did
think I
once,
giggled.
but
Which part?
I don't know. It's hard to say.
I thought it was going
Um
to be really funny based on the very slapsticky beginning where they're like,
yeah.
Father loves Beaver and all the, it's Lee Majors.
Mhm.
Okay, Lee
Yeah,
Majors,
I
you
think
and
I
me and
laughed at
Mrs.
Lee
Claus.
Majors. I think I laughed at
Okay.
Lee Majors where like Santa pays him a compliment and he's like, okay. Uh-huh. Um
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a little bit of a like it's a little bit of a bummer how my perception of this movie kind of dropped down a bit, I'm afraid.
Well, mine did too. And although I did like the Ghost of Christmas Future is a big scully skeletony Grim Reaper, but he opens up his chest and he's got like little ghosts in there,
And then a
and then
television monitor for a face,
a
which
television
was
monitor
fun.
for a face, which was really good. But later, Bill Murray, once he's gone good, he opens it up again, and they've all got little Christmas presents and like
Mhm.
eggnog. The ghosts
Mhm.
inside. I thought that was funny. I didn't laugh, but
Mhm.
I thought it was funny and cute.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so on a scale of one mouse with antlers stapled to its head
Right.
to 10
Mm.
mice with antlers stapled to their heads,
It's yeah.
how many
It's
do you give
tough.
Scrooged?
It's a tough. I think I'm gonna go with a 6.
Okay.
Um, and really kind of fluctuated between a 6 and 7, but kind of having our conversation, I realize I keep on um pushing towards the 6.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, as a kid though, this was like an 8 for sure.
Okay. I could see thinking it was funnier if you were a kid. Rocket wouldn't watch it with me. He
Yeah,
had
see,
no
it's like
interest.
when you're a kid, and I'm talking like preteens, like the wacky people are the best. And then rewatching some of these movies where you had like the wacky silly guy on the ensemble team, like he was the coolest, and then now you realize, oh man, that is just doesn't fit into the movie at all.
Yeah.
Like that is just
Yeah.
like pandering to the kids.
Mhm.
Um and that's kind of where this movie unfortunately fell for me.
Yeah, and it's rated PG-13, so it's not intended for kids.
Right.
But yeah, Rocket had no interest
I think kids will
watching
still
with
like
me.
it. I don't think it's a thing in terms of, oh, this was 80s style humor. Like I think kids might, when I really like this movie, kids today would still probably be into it as well. You know, I'm
Mm,
sh- you know
I don't
I
know. The trailer didn't appeal to Rocket at all.
mm,
I was like, watch this movie with me. We were sitting down to watch an old Christmas movie, and we ended up watching Fred Claus because he wouldn't watch this one with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. We chose the worst of the two movies. But there's nothing about the trailer that appealed to him. So I think I give it a 5 on a scale of 1 mouse with antlers to 10
Mm.
mouses with antlers. Cuz I thought it was just fine. It was fine. It wasn't I didn't find it funny. I didn't find it, very charming. I thought it was cute. I thought it was fine. I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was not Bill Murray's finest.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was not Richard Donner's finest.
Right.
It was just an okay Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm.
What a bummer. I thought this would be a really fun comedy
Merry
one.
Christmas, everyone!
Merry
Merry Christmas!
Christmas. Well, speaking of Merry Christmas, what is your deep cut recommendation?
So my deep cut recommendation, it's also kind of an irreverent take on A Christmas Carol.
So it's
Um,
mine.
it's called the I'm gonna mentally guess I feel like I know what your deep cut's gonna be, and so I'm gonna guess. But yeah, so mine is called A Christmas Carol Gone Wrong. And so there's this whole series. It's like originally based off of a stage performance of like the play that goes wrong.
Which I
Um,
love.
yeah, and so this is A Christmas Carol Gone Wrong,
Oh,
where the
yay.
actors from that, what they have done is that they take over. It's basically this is a British series, or not series. It's kind of like, they created the play and then it turned into Peter Pan goes wrong, Christmas Carol goes wrong, and then the Goes Wrong show. The whole idea is that they're amateur local drama society, and the plays they put on just
Go wrong.
disintegrate on stage. And so in this case, this is a little more broad, but basically they hijack a live BBC production of A Christmas Carol. And so
Love
they've
it.
they've kidnapped all the main actors, and they are substituting themselves in the parts in this live production, and then everything goes wrong every scene. And so it's really more about the fun inventiveness of how each moment and scene can fall apart,
I
as
love
they
it.
struggle through it. And I think it's available for free with ads right now.
Okay, I think I saw it when we were looking through Christmas movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great. I can't wait. I can't wait to watch it. I'm going to make Rocket watch it with me.
Cool.
Do you want to guess what mine is?
Is it Spirited?
It's Spirited.
It was a close one for me, like when I was trying to figure out. Yeah. But that's another great take on the same idea,
Yeah.
a
It's another
reinvention.
modern reinvention of A Christmas Carol with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. It's funny. It's musical. There's a whole song about how in the Victorian era, "Good afternoon" was the rudest thing you could say to someone. So there's a whole song where
Mhm.
they run around saying "Good afternoon" to everyone they meet. It's charming. It's witty. It's a clever take. It's a modern take. It's funny, and I loved it. It's spirited.
Awesome. Great. And I think the writer director who did that is originally from here.
From
Way back in the
Phoenix?
day. Yeah.
It came out in 2022.
Yeah.
So it came out last year. I recommend it highly. The writer director, let's see.
Sean Anders. Yeah, he
Sean
did
Anders.
his first film Never Been Thawed was filmed here, so I guess I'm just assuming. But yeah, I think he originally was from here.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, there we go. I love it. So where can people find you to support your artistic endeavors?
Ooh, artistic endeavors. Yeah, Squishy Studios. So squishystudios.com is the easiest way if you want to check out some of our short films or our feature film project, the last movie ever made that's basically finishing up its film festival run. So hopefully we'll have some news in terms of when it comes out on the normal platforms for rent or purchase.
Excellent. That's exciting.
Yeah.
You can find me at the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona, or at nctphoenix.com. You can find us at Most Excellent Pod on the Instagrams and the Facebooks. And you probably heard a little commercial for this at the top of the episode. But if you're still here with us at the end and you want a little bit more Nathan and Krissy, please subscribe and become a member of our channel on truestory.fm. Just a few bucks a month. You get the episodes a week early, and you get some extra special chitty chitty chat with Nathan and Krissy at the end of the episode. So sign up there, support the pod. We appreciate you. And while you're out there enjoying your holiday season, please keep the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and party
Party
on,
on,
dudes.
dudes.